humbly submitted for your approval the story of an orphan. That is to say, the journey of the soul of the orphan across time and through space, generation upon generation. For no matter what you may think of your immediate family of origin, are we not in some way all orphans of our cosmic parentage? The question remains for you. Will you see yourself as a victim of that abandonment or a survivor of a cosmic initiation into becoming? It is up to you and your imagination.
I am the reincarnation of a medieval monk who made woodblock prints of cadavers for alchemists to study. I am the direct descendant of Dancing Owl. I know the need to leave my tribe in order to protect my people and return to the cave where I was born. I'm the second coming of Leonardo da Vinci. I can see it when I'm writing in the mirror. I am Dante and Machiavelli. Only this time I won't be so eager to spread the word. I'm a 17th century serf, not quite fit for this modern world. I'm still eating plants, fruits, and tubers. But then, the roots have always been. I swallow their tendrils and spiral back and forth through time, catching glimpses of all that I have ever been and all that I will ever become. But know one thing. I am not what I appear to be. I am, however, an orphan, and as such, I'm in some pretty provocative company. Some of my kindred: Johann Sebastian Bach, Edgar Allan Poe, Bertrand Russell, Cyrus the Great, the Persian king whose life the myth of Oedipus is said to be based upon. Now that's a story I know a thing or two about. The Dalai Lama, Malcolm X, Steve Jobs, John Lennon, Marilyn Monroe, all of us orphans. And there's something I can tell you about being an orphan that's often overlooked. That is, at least while growing up, I was spared the ignominy of actually knowing my own family. For I am the love child of a pair of teenage sweethearts who was sold over the backyard fence to strangers. And I can tell you firsthand that being raised in captivity against one's will is a surefire way to release latent resources, like the ability to survive in unfamiliar, even hostile environments, or the protean talent to continually transform. Now, old Proteus himself was an oracular deity gifted with the ability to shapeshift. At will, he could become a dog, a bird, a tree, a seal. But why so many changes? Because he was also gifted with certain knowledge of the future. So he would change his shape in order to avoid being forced to reveal the truth about events yet to come. Now, I've learned a thing or two from old Proteus and the rest, so these days, I am an eoproligerous peripatetic boulevardier with a penchant for perspicacity, in search of numinous encounters in Temenos. And I'm not timorous about admitting it, because I don't let quotidian detritus hamper any of my aspirations. But I'll tell you what, walking around in those shoes out there in the streets can lead to some pretty curious encounters. Like recently, I was back in the Midwest on business, and my lover had flown in to spend the weekend with me. We were at the market shopping, and while we were there, we were having a lively discussion about Sheldrake's theories of morphogenesis and quantum non-locality, and the role that the objective psyche plays in the sense of timelessness that we all experience in dreams. Now, I have to admit that these are the kinds of dialogues that attracted me to her in the first place. So while we were at the checkout, I longingly looked at her and said, "Gwyneth, you are the siren who calls the sailors from the sea and into the rocks against their will. So pleased they are to hear your sweet voice sing." Now at this, Tanya, who's been scanning our fruits and vegetables while listening to this witty repartee, can no longer hold her tongue. She looks at us and says, "Damn, you two a couple of wordy motherfuckers, ain't you?" I chirp back, "Indubitably." Tanya scans a Myers lemon, looks at Gwyneth and says, You let him kiss you with that mouth of his? Why, I bet he wags that fancy tongue of his all over them pretty white teeth of yours, and Lord knows what else. Now, Gwyneth is right with her and comes back with, yeah, but you know what he really likes is when I bite his tongue. He loves that. He begs for it. And I do. Tanya rolls a Tuscan melon down the conveyor and says, I know you, wicked sister. Go on now, take him home and throw the book at him. You may have noticed that my normal emotional state resembles something like quixotic rapture. But I have to admit, there are plenty of occasions when I slide down to the opposite end of the psycho-emotional gradient to the cold, arid, emotionless place known as alexithymia. And all the compassion that I have that would ordinarily connect me to humanity is lost. But I found a curative, and a bracing one it is at that. Stendhal syndrome. Stendhal syndrome is the psychodynamic state accompanied by rapid heart beating, palpitations, sweaty palms, nervousness, dizziness, sometimes even fainting, when one is exposed to exceptionally beautiful works of art, or confronted with the overwhelming majesty of nature herself. Now, Stendhal first cataloged all of this in the late 1800s in Florence, Italy, particularly on his visits to the cathedral at Santa Croce. And when I stood in that same spot 100 years later, I re-experienced all of it. What the French refer to as chantepleurs, to be moved to tears of joy, elicited by the songs that move the heart. But I'll admit, there are plenty of times when all of this begins to feel like something of a burden. And in those moments, I see myself like an Atlas figure bearing the weight of the world upon my shoulder, until it occurs to me I could just set it all down. Let gravity herself have her way with it. And as it rolls away and I draw a bead upon it, I can hear Dante reminding me, many have justice in the heart, but few find the courage to bring the arrow to the bow. But you and your people, keep it on the tip of your tongue. So, I ask myself, are these martial projectiles that I would send to destroy? Or are they the feathered shafts of Cupid I should rather aim aloft? I mean, what is the true nature of my quiver? Look, the ancient Greek in me wants to speak to you in Latin of the joining together of hearts, but I no longer know how to pronounce the old words, and so I struggle to find the meaning. Why, if I could still pronounce those distant sounds whose resonance joins heaven and earth, I could stop launching arrows in the night at stars, and I could stop pretending that I know what will fall to earth next, because that's a posture unbecoming an open heart. I've seen the tombs in the wall at Santa Croce, so I read the Purgatorio. I read that book because I knew it held some truth, and I cried when I got to page 2. Machiavelli and Michelangelo, they flanked Dante on that wall. What a little difference 5 centuries make when you're dealing with the human soul. Sometimes I wake in the middle of the night and I feel as if I will be sucked out through the floor and through the walls in every direction at an incalculable rate of speed and delivered to a distant, unknown land. And I want to be. In those moments, I can count the molecules in the space that surrounds me, and time and distance have no meaning. There are explosions going off inside my body, but they do not make a sound. They do not disturb the deep silence, and they do not light that dark room. I know I will be propelled by this internal combustion, but to where, I do not know. I don't know where I'm going, but I know how I'm going to get there. But first, I should remind you of where I came from and how I got here. When I was a dog, I was a very successful dog, a stealthy dog. I learned to bury my bone where no one would find it, or so I thought. When I was a bird, I was a magnificent bird. I could swoop and soar. I had a vibrant plume, and my feathers were widely sought. When I was a fish, I could breathe underwater, and I swallowed whole all the ocean had to offer, and sirens shared my bed. When I was a tree, with roots deep in soil and my limbs spread wide against the sky. My hollow sheltered precious life, so I never slept a wink. When I was a star, I knew no bounds, and I had no need for faith or hope until I fell to earth. Now, I'm just another dog howling in the night, just another bird feathering my nest. I am just a fish, and there are so many in the sea, and I can't quite decide if I'm the forest or a tree. Well, the noise the world makes is but a breath of wind, blowing from time to time, its name changing depending on the direction it comes from. So who's to say that all that has passed might not just be shed, and the history you keep yourself shackled to could drop from around you like the ponderous chains on Marley's ghost, and you could step forward, free, into a new light, and see and be seen as never before. When? Well, there's always the last moment.
For now, our story rests here. But, like all time-honored tales, and our lives themselves, it will begin again and again. For what are legends after all, but stories of ordinary people accomplishing incredible dreams against impossible odds. After all it takes is a little courage and imagination.